I see y'all boys, man. Even when you always vibe, it still can be difficult putting differences aside. It's easy to be blinded by your ignorance and pride, but if you know experience, give listening a try. It's simple, let's bridge the gap between this or that. It's not white or black when you only know half, but if we put it all together, we'll make it a whole. Then regardless of our feelings, the truth will get told. So if your views don't match up with mine, the very same situation could feel different when I see it through your eyes. So whether it's your side or my side.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Truth Podcast, where we tell our versions of the truth, because that's all we know. I am your host, Randall Colson, creator of Fettuccine TV. Shout out to Fettuccine Nation. But it's not about me today. We have a special guest with us today. The man, I don't even know how God put us together, but I'm thankful for it. I just met him this year. You guys are gonna love him. His name is Roman McCutchen. I gotta say it right. I had to ask him before, but I got it right. Roman McCutchen. Everybody give it up for Roman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes.
All my adoring fans.
We got a lot of them, actually, and we'll add this in at the end. But Roman also has his own podcast that we'll put in the link in the description down below. You know we gotta support each other, so I'm gonna give y'all information for his stuff too. But Roman, how you doing today?
Great, man. Fantastic. I already played pickleball today, actually, which I don't have to get into the whole pickleball thing.
Listen,
but yeah,
you might have to tell him.
So if you don't know what pickleball is, it's all right. A lot of people don't, but technically I am a professional pickleball player.
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of cool, I guess. If you're professional in any sport, I guess it's kind of neat. So yeah, it's a good day.
If you don't know pickleball, look it up. You probably played it in PE class, or you see them old dudes at the park playing on the tennis court. Roman is not one of them old dudes. He's a professional, and he'll whoop you behind. So, Roman, where are you from? Tell the people where you're from.
So everywhere. Virginia. I currently live in Virginia. But Virginia's like my 12th state that I've lived in. So, I was born in Alabama, but quickly moved to St. Louis, which is what I would consider home, I guess.
Okay.
But I've lived in Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, West Virginia, Arizona, Alabama, Tennessee, everywhere. I mean, Texas. I mean, it's crazy. But it's kind of nice. I mean, I don't necessarily know that I have there's not I don't go back to home or whatever, but if it was, I guess St. Louis would be it.
Okay.
That's where my dad's from. So.
And your dad is a preacher, right?
Yeah, no, he is. He's been a minister my whole life, 30 something years. I'm 30, so I'm not 30 something. I am 30.
Go ahead, let him know.
And let me tell you, 30 hurt a little bit. I just want to say that, but not terrible, but it was enough to where I was I don't want to celebrate. Grew up in the church, obviously a big impact on what I do now, youth and family minister. And so, the experience for me as a minister's kid wasn't terrible. I think what some ministers' kids might say, but there's definitely an influence there.
Definitely. Shout out to all the PKs, the preacher kids. Listen, talk to me about, as you guys know, Roman is a youth and family minister down in Virginia. What's the church name again?
It's called Bayside Church of Christ in Virginia Beach.
He out there I was about to say with the honeys, bro. No, Roman. Sorry, ladies. Roman is taken to the lovely Lauren. Shout out to her. It's her first day of school, but her second year, I think it was, the post said.
Yeah.
Shout out to her J's. She had the lows on. Nobody knew except for me. I put it in the comments.
Thank you.
But she was killing it. Shout out to her. So sorry, ladies. He is taken. But he's out there in Virginia Beach, which I have to go at some point. I've been once. It's awesome, but it was raining the whole time. So I was like, this stinks.
All right.
But
Fair.
Talk to us about growing up, I guess just in youth ministry. We'll talk about right now what youth ministry was like back in the day. You said you're 30, I'm 27. So we grew up in the same generation of youth ministry. So talk to us about that a little bit.
So, I mean, I moved around a fair amount, obviously. So I got to experience what I think several different cultures would consider youth ministry in general. And I I mean, though it wasn't crazy different, it is. I mean, it's definitely different than it is now. That's for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of it revolved around just being able to be together.
Mm.
And it was, I mean, a lot of videos, a lot of really long videos.
Yes.
Uh, um, hey, the Numa series with Rob Bell.
Yes. Yep.
I watched that way too many times. It was good though, I guess. But uh, I had a couple big youth groups, but for the most part, they were kind of small. And
Mhm.
being the preacher's kid, everybody expected you to know all the answers, which
Yeah.
I never did because I read just as much of my Bible as they did, which was like almost none.
Amen. Amen.
Um, and it was, I don't know, I enjoyed it. My youth, like my experience as a kid in youth ministry, had almost the opposite effect of why I'm in youth ministry now. It made me like not want to be a youth minister. Not that I had a terrible time, but it was just like it was boring, man. Like
Ew.
I didn't really enjoy it.
Okay, go. Can you go
Um,
into that a little bit more? What you mean by that?
it was just like it felt like adults were creating something for them, but then
Ooh,
dumbing it down.
come on,
That's
come
what it felt
on.
like. That's what it felt like. You know, I mean, it was like this isn't. I don't want to talk. It was like that, or then they'd be like, "We're gonna shock and awe. We're gonna talk to you about sex,"
Yes.
and it was
Yep.
like, "Oh no, I don't want to talk about that." And so I don't know. It was like, "Come on, can we talk about something that I want to talk about? Can we talk about something like relevant?" And
Mm.
that just never happened. It was, it was like, "Don't do drugs." It was don't go party late at night. It was always like crazy radical things. And I'm like, I'm just trying not to cuss sometimes.
Amen.
And like but that was like, I don't know, it's never conversation. And I wanted it to be more conversational, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like we were either watching a video or like someone was just like talking to me. And I wanted to talk back, but
Mm.
there was never that back and forth, which is the opposite of what I do now. So like I guess thank you to those people for teaching me
Okay.
what not to
Amen.
do, I guess.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, listen, I bet you there's a lot of people that are listening that are shaking their heads like, yeah, that was me. I'm the same way. It was just like, sex is great, don't do it. Like it was just like,
Right.
what? Like, all right. And everything was, so you trying to have sex? You trying to do drugs? And I'm just like, listen, like, I don't even know what that is. I'm just trying to play basketball.
Right.
Like it wasn't
Right.
that serious.
Right. Yeah, like
Uh,
they talked like these pressures were like so hardcore. Like and at times I guess that happened, but they made it seem like that's all it was.
yes.
And there's so much more than that, and especially now, but like maybe we'll talk about that later, but like it it was like completely big picture nothing. And
Mm. I feel like a lot of it, like for the church that I grew up at, we had a lot of like I always say the moms and dads was living their best lives and then they came to Christ. So they're just like, don't
mhm.
be like me. And I'm like, listen, like
Yes.
I grew up in the church, so like I'm not out here wild and acting a fool. But they just wanted to
Hmm.
make sure we didn't make any of the mistakes they did, which I get. But it's like, look, like we different from y'all. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
so you grew up a PK, you grew up in youth group. What made you want to be a youth and family minister, pursue that as a career?
Um, so I'll try to. There's a long story, but I'm gonna try to shorten it.
Listen, do your thing.
Um, so I was gonna play baseball. I got hurt.
Hmm.
So no baseball, which is fine. The Lord blessed me there because I was a jerk, and baseball was just gonna let me continue to be a jerk.
Yeah.
um, but we moved right after high school from Kentucky to South Carolina,
Okay.
and um, I didn't really know what I was going to do. Really didn't have a direction. And so we get there, and there's a lot of people in the Navy, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you join the Navy?" And so I go and like I sign up or whatever. I go in to be a nuclear engineer. I pass all the tests, and it's like, "Oh, cool! I'm going to be a nuclear engineer in the Navy." Um, and but between like me signing up and then like my basic training time was like 6 months or something, and then in between that was like the summer, right? And so the church that my dad was at was like, hey, we'll give you like $250 a week to like teach the youth class. And I was like,
Yes.
yes, absolutely, because I'm not making any money.
Yes.
And at the time, there were a few girls that I was trying to hang out with,
Come on
and I
now.
didn't
Come on. We keeping it honest here. Let's go.
right. And so I was like, sweet, yeah, why not? I know enough. I can tell David and Goliath and like Noah, and like I can tell stories. It can't be that hard, right?
Yeah.
And let me tell you, after my first class, after I taught my first Sunday morning class, I was like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Amen.
I fell in love immediately. And I know that seems like almost unbelievable, and I agree with you. Like it does sound unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. Like I got done with that class and was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done.
Yes.
I love everything about this. And then it was like, oh wait, I'm going into the Navy. Oh no. And it's like a 6-year contract. And I was like, oh wait. And so I'm still doing that for the summer, and it gets like we're like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks out of me going to basic training for the Navy, and they call me into the office and they're like, hey, we just want to go over a few things. And so to join the nuclear engineering program, you have to have like a really high security clearance because you're going to learn all this information about usually how they power a lot of their ships. And so the security clearance takes a long time, like to get essentially. And they're like, hey, we just want to make sure that all this paperwork is correct. And I was like, hey, that's not my social security number. And they had it wrong by 1 digit.
Oh my goodness.
And they had written it down wrong. And so what ended up happening was my contract became completely void.
Yeah.
Because they essentially didn't sign me up. They signed somebody else up.
Yeah.
And so they're like, here's the thing. You're either like, you will void your contract, you can walk away, or you can like re-up, and then you have another like 14 months till we can get you in. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. See ya.
Yeah.
And like that was yet again another like whole God is telling me what I'm doing in my life.
Amen.
And it was incredible. And at that point, like I was still like on the hype train, like super like on fire for like I'm gonna be a youth minister. This is awesome. But like that validated it even more for me.
Yes.
And so I was like, all right, what do I do now? And so I signed up at Harding University, which is a small Christian college. Well, I don't know. It's the biggest Church of Christ college in the United States. And it's in Arkansas. And my first day ever being on Harding's campus was the day I moved in. And I was like, let's do this. And that's how I got into youth ministry.
Come on,
here
now.
I am.
A divine calling from the Lord. Come on now. That's it.
Yeah.
That's fire. That's so tough. You've been in youth ministry or just in ministry for how long again?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay. So what is the, and I don't want to hear the peanut butter story because we can't, like, I know the peanut butter story, but we can't talk about the peanut butter story. I will never forget that story. But if we were not representing our churches, I would say, let's go. We keep it real on Fatitude TV. But besides that story, what's one of the best or funniest stories you've experienced in ministry so far?
So I was in St. Louis as a youth minister, and we were learning the books of the Bible. This is kind of where we were at as a youth group, which is fine.
Amen.
And we're doing the Old Testament. And so how I like try to create some games and essentially we're doing Old Testament. I have them written down on note cards, and I kind of just like flung them out all over the room. And I had 2 teams, and there were 2 sets of cards, and it was like, all right, you got to go. You can only grab 1 card at a time. You got to bring it back. You got to put it in order. All right. And so super simple, nothing crazy. But they're all sort of like looking around, trying to, grab it. A kid brought his friend who had never been to church before, ever. And, and we get to Psalms, and he's like, I got P Psalms.
Amen.
I got P Psalms. and
why the P though? Why the big P?
Right.
Pause,
I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, pause. Listen. Um, he and that's funny in of itself. But there was a kid in the youth group that was like, "Hey, the 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 S is silent," and I looked and I was like, "What?" And so this kid's like, "I got palms. I got
Oh
palms."
gosh.
And like I'm
Yo.
sitting there and I'm like, "What are we doing? What are we doing?" And I'm like, "Who? What?" And so I never corrected them, by the way.
Amen.
I
Amen.
I let that happen. And so for real, for like a month, this kid was like palms.
Amen.
He's like, yeah, it says in like Palms
Come
121. And I'm
on now.
like, yeah.
Jesus with the palm tree. Come on. It all makes sense. It makes sense. Yo, P
And so
Psalms. P Psalms is my new
I let
favorite.
that ride. Yeah, I let that ride for way too long, but I'm here for it. It was
Amen.
fantastic.
I'm glad you did, because that is funny. P Psalms and then the S is silent. Palms. Let's go. So what would you say is something that you noticed the biggest difference in youth ministry back, and we'll say like the late 90s, early 2000s versus youth ministry now? What's the big differences between those two?
Um, maybe the pace.
Mm,
I think that it was slow back in the day. It felt slow anyway, and it was like those like the videos, like going back to the videos.
yeah.
Numa videos like 25 minutes long, like 30 minutes
Yes.
long. Listen, if I put a 30-minute video on in my class, there is no way kids are watching that thing.
Amen.
It's not happening. And that expectation was there to like sit and be attentive, and like now you're not an option, right?
Yeah.
I don't care how long it is. I don't care who's talking. I don't care if they're boring. I don't like it doesn't matter. You're sitting there and you're gonna listen.
Yeah.
Um, and that isn't a thing anymore.
Amen to that.
Um, like and parents don't have that expectation for their kids anymore.
Come
And
on.
like that's like almost mind-boggling a little bit to me, because I don't know. I guess the old head in me is like give me a little bit of respect, I guess, but like
Yeah.
I get it. I know that every class that I put together isn't going to be the greatest thing you've ever heard.
You right.
But
Yep.
like you can at least pretend like it was okay. Pretending isn't a thing. People are real. Kids are so real
Yes.
now. Like
Yes.
back in the day, I was like, oh, you know what? I don't really like that. But you know what? Hey, that wasn't terrible. Like, good job. I'll at least act like it wasn't bad. Kids are like, hey, that sucked. I don't. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and not come back. Like,
Yo, yo. Amen. It's the truth.
it is, dude. They don't play games, but like it's so fast paced. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I guess if I had to pick an answer, it's got to be that it's so much more fast paced than it was back in the day. But it has to be
Yeah.
because kids are getting all this information all the time so quickly. And like I don't know, YouTube videos, you keep them to 8 minutes or less or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And like if you can do that, you're going to be able to like capture a large audience, because
Yeah.
that's the attention span that we got, right? And so maintaining I honestly have like planned classes with 8-minute segments.
Yeah.
So we can keep moving, and keep a discussion base and everybody's talking, but at the same time, like it's not a stagnant pool that gets gross. Like
Yes.
it's flowing water, right? And
Yeah.
that seems like one of the biggest differences between when I was in youth group and youth group now.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's the truth. That's facts. I mean, I like the attention span is so quick. Like you have to it's one of those things where it's like the world is so fast. I feel like sometimes
Mhm.
when we step in the church, we step into a time machine. And so it's just
Yeah.
like everything slows down, everything. And like sometimes
Mhm.
that's great, but at the same time you lose some people that aren't like, I think about visitors and things like that. Like they're looking
Yeah.
like, yo, why are y'all doing it this way? Like, why does it have to
Mhm.
be like this? And we're sitting there
Yes.
like, it's always been this way. What are you talking about?
It's interesting because it seems like if anything's going to change first, it's going to be how the youth changes. And then like if it's a great idea or it works out, maybe it transfers into something like the young adults, and then it continues to kind of go up the ladder. But like change very rarely ever seems to happen from like adults to kids. It's always from youth to adults.
That's good. Write that down if you're listening, y'all. That's good. That's real good. What do you think in school they didn't prepare you for enough? Like when you're taking those youth ministry classes, when you're doing all that stuff, what were you not prepared the most about?
Listen, how much time we got? Because I could talk about this for days.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, I mean, you're never really taught how to put a class together.
Come on.
Like that's not a thing, and that's mind-boggling to me.
Yes.
But I'm not going to harp on that too much because youth ministers that are listening know what I'm talking about. Like, there is no like, obviously, there's not like set curriculum, right? I mean, you could go buy some, but it's like you're not for you specifically to create a class. There is no class for that, I don't think.
No.
And why that's not a thing, I'm not sure.
Come on.
But I think the thing that I wasn't prepared for the most is parents. And like how it's the truth.
Yes.
Sir.
Like parent, like I've said this phrase for way too long, and at some point there's going to be a parent that's like gets really mad at me for saying it, but like youth ministry would be perfect if parents didn't exist.
Come on. Yes. We gonna get fired. Come on. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's the truth, man. Like I cannot tell you how many times a parent has gotten involved when they shouldn't have, or a parent has been absent when they needed to be there, or when a parent has they've crossed a line that's just like, what were you thinking? And there has not, I have never even like ever in class or any whatever in college was like no one ever talked about that. And you would think that like you're dealing with kids, so you're gonna deal with their parents. Like it comes with it. I understand it. That's fine. And I'm not expecting parents to be perfect. But parents come in with this like, and especially because I don't have kids. So parents come in with this like, I know more about what you're doing than you do because I birthed a child. Or like, you know, and it's like, yeah, that's cool and everything. But like your kid doesn't know the books of the Bible, and that's not my fault.
Come on.
That's your fault.
Come on.
Like, and I'm not saying that knowing the books of the Bible is the end all be all, but like that means that they're not opening the Bible at home.
Come on.
And I only have your kid for maybe 3 to 4 hours a week. Who should be the real youth minister here? It should be you, mom and dad.
Come on. Come on.
So don't have this expectation that like I am your child's, you know, biblical savior that's going to give them all of this knowledge from the Bible. That's not me. Mom and dad, that's you, man. I'll give you guidance, and I'm there, and I'm an extra voice, and I understand that at times they're going to listen to me more than you, but you have the greater influence.
Yes.
So, and this is a tangent, but like I think that I know that school, like college classes, need to prepare us for being able to have conversations with parents.
Yes.
To say, hey, I need you to be on board with what I'm doing, or it's never going to work.
Come on.
And so that I wish for sure was talked about in classes, because it's going to happen regardless. It's going to happen wherever you are. And it's a necessity in youth ministry to be able to have those conversations with mom and dad.
Come on. He preaching, y'all. He preaching. That is, if I know all the youth ministers are in the back, like, let's go. Come on. Yo. Oh man. That was like the biggest thing that I agree with you 100%. It's just, and that was my biggest fear, is I was just like, I don't want to deal with these parents, man. I'm here for these kids all day. And it feels like majority of youth ministry is dealing with the parents sometimes. You're like, yo, the kids are chilling. Like, they got it.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example for me. So like, let me not bring it in. Listen,
Do it.
All right. So listen, my church is mixed, y'all. We interracial. We got a lot of everybody. So sometimes a group of people be late to class, y'all. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We be late, and that's okay, because God is always on time. But to teach the families how to be on time, I'd start locking the doors for class at like, and I'm not talking late, like, I'm not saying like Bible class start at 9:05, I'm locking the door. I'm talking like 9:15 locking the door. And people was like, yo, I mean, people were showing up, classes from 9 to 9:50. People were showing up at 9:45, like, what's good, y'all? And I'm like, nah, yo, like,
No,
it's
get
not
out of
gonna
here.
work. Like, you gotta go. And so these parents were all like, that's right. Teach these kids how to be on time. And I'm like, yo, like, none of these kids drive. So like, like they're late because of you. Like, it's not a lesson for them. It's a lesson for you to teach you to be on time for church. And like, I promise you, half of the parents still haven't gotten it to this day. They're just like, I loved when you locked the doors. And I'm like, yo, like, these kids aren't driving. Like, just stuff like that. And so now the kids are like, yo, come on, like telling their parents, like, we gotta be on time. Like, I want to be here for class. And the parents are like, man, like, come on. But like, that's what a lot of youth ministry is. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was just the games and the youth rallies and making those deep connections. But it's like, yo, it's like teaching kids, but then also like being a support for these parents. It's crazy, man. Don't get into youth ministry. Don't do it. No, I'm just joking. But be prepared. Be prepared. What was the best advice you've got ever going into ministry? And what was like the worst advice you ever got going into ministry?
I'll start with the worst. The worst advice was be cool.
Who said that? I'm sorry. That is so whack. Who said, don't tell me, but come on
Right.
now.
I know, right? They were like, "Hey, listen, you got to be cool because you're gonna want to get the cool kids to come hang out. They'll be better influence, and so be cool." I was like, "This is what."
I'm about to cry. That is the wackest, corniest advice I've ever heard. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I mean, it's the truth though. I mean, it's like that's terrible. I honestly like. It was, like when an old person tells you something and you're like, you already told me this 4 times.
Yes.
Like that's how it felt. It's the exact same way I felt. I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Like,
Amen.
let's keep moving. I'm ready to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so, I don't, whatever. If this person's not listening to this podcast because they don't even know what a podcast is.
Amen.
But like,
Amen.
I feel bad for them. I really do.
Be cool. Be cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yo. That is terrible.
The best advice that I ever got though, and hear me out. Hear me out before I finish. All right. But like, listen, it is, if you can, this person said, if you can do anything else other than youth ministry, do it. And I was like, at first I was like, what? Don't tell, I want to be a youth minister. But then the more that like, I have considered it, and listen, I have had some pretty low lows in youth ministry, and I have really considered doing something else.
Yeah.
And really was like, I'm not equipped at this point to continue in youth ministry. And like, I really thought about that advice, and I was like, all right, maybe it's just time. But then like, God was like, no, you don't get to do anything else. And even for myself, it was like, I don't want to do anything else. I don't have a desire to be anything other than a minister.
Yeah.
And so if I were to pursue something else, I don't know that I would succeed, or I don't know that I would even I know I wouldn't be, like, my heart wouldn't be in it. I wouldn't be as excited about it. I wouldn't be poured into it like I am ministry. And so that's probably the best advice I ever received, was that once you know that you can do something else, go do it, because you need to be, everything about you needs to be ministry.
Oh,
to be effective.
Come on. That was good. That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm over here like, this was for me. I don't care about, we care about the viewers, subscribe, but I'm just saying this was for me. That's good. That's really good. I love that. What is your biggest failure you feel in ministry or the biggest failure you had, and then what is your biggest success?
When I was I'm still young. All right. I don't want to take that
Amen.
off
Come
and say
on.
I'm still young. But when I was younger and significantly less wise than I am now, I had no idea what I was doing. And it happens. It's what happens when you start and you're young in anything. And
Mm.
I wish that I had taken more time for kids to figure stuff out on their own.
Ooh.
I think I failed a couple groups of kids by handing them things too many
Mm.
times instead of letting them grab it for themselves and just hold on to it,
Yeah.
and or even find it themselves completely. I know now way more than I did then that some like if a kid can find or figure something out on their own, they're going to hold on to it way more and way tighter than they would if I were to just hand it to them.
Mm.
And so, the idea of I say Google it in my class way more than I probably should.
Good.
But I basically only ask questions for the most part. You could pull any one of my youth group kids in here. They'd be like, "What does Roman do in his class?" He'd be like, "He asks us questions," and then he asks us to Google it. um,
Amen.
and but that's on purpose. And if like we need more guidance or whatever, I'm there for that.
Yeah.
But I spoon fed way too long, and
Mm.
now I have specifically, and this kid. I mean, like he's a friend of mine. I mean, he was a sophomore in high school when I was like a couple years out of high school. So it's not like we were super far away in age,
Yeah.
and we're friends now. And he was in the youth group, and it was when I first started, and he's an atheist now.
Wow.
And he called me maybe 4 years ago and was like, "Hey Roman, I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to know that this really has absolutely nothing to do with you, because some of the best times in my life was when I was at church in youth group with you guys, but
Mm.
like I just can't believe in God anymore."
Mm.
And that sucked.
Yes.
For anybody wondering, that was terrible. Uh, but that made me do a lot of self-reflection and a lot of wondering as to why that didn't stick with him. And in all honesty, I could come to a lot of conclusions, and I know that he said that it wasn't about me, but like I'm not like holding
Mm.
on to that baggage, I guess. Like I get it, but at the same time, I really think that if I would have given him more of an opportunity to just find his own faith instead of kind of telling him what to believe,
Mm.
he'd
Okay.
you know he
Mm.
he wouldn't be like lost.
Whew. Man.
Um, so yeah,
That I
there's
mean,
that.
uh, it's one of those things where I can say like, brother, that wasn't your fault. Like you don't put that on you. But I know it's one of those things that you're just like, that's nice, but I feel like I could have done more.
So that was the biggest failure,
Yeah.
and probably the greatest success was actually I don't know if this counts or not, um, but it was actually before ministry, so maybe this doesn't count, but I'm going to
That's all
say it
right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And then I have one that might kind of relate, but I was actually a freshman in high school, and we went to Ukraine.
Ooh.
Me and my dad with like a group of people, and we hosted a youth rally while we were there. We had like 100 kids, which is like nuts. It was like large for the area that we were in. And I was teaching a class as like at the age of like 15. There's like a 35-year-old man in my class, which was crazy to me. And for me, and maybe this is one, and I'll explain maybe why I would consider this my biggest success, is that I baptized him like that
Wow.
evening.
Woo.
Um, and right. And so that was for me a success because I'll be real honest, like baptizing people it's not like scary to me, but it's weird.
Yes. Thank you.
I'm gonna say that it's weird. I get it, I understand it, I think it's necessary, but like it's
Yes.
weird, man.
Come on.
Like I mean, you were there. I rebaptize a kid at camp.
Yeah.
I did a cannonball before I did that.
You definitely did.
I did. It was like, that's weird. It was a weird experience. I'm like uncomfortable and completely excited, all in the same emotion. But the reason that I say that that's probably my biggest success is because that guy is now a like full-time missionary in Ukraine.
Come on.
And so like I have conversations with him, and so like it's cool.
You're about to make me cry on the channel, yeah. Goodness. Oh man.
Yeah, that has that relationship has continued throughout my ministry, and so it's super cool. I mean, like and it's I'll be real honest, it's a confidence boost for me, man. Like I'll be like, hey, I did that when I was 15, dude.
Yes.
And so I use it as like a Snickers bar when I'm feeling down. It's like, let's do it.
You better
I'm not being me right now, but it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talk about call on your life. Oh man. That's good. That's good. Whew. I told y'all this was for me. I'm just over here. I feel like Roman on stage and I'm just on the side. I'm like, yes, Lord, yeah. Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Podcast, where we tell our version of the truth, because that's all we know. Listen, put down in the comments if you agreed with us, if you didn't agree with us. Also, give this video a like and let us know what you want us to talk about next. I'll see you on the next one. This is Fatty TV, and we out. Peace.